The needle slid into Danny Reeves' arm so smoothly that he barely felt it. He sat on the cold metal examination table, watching the tall insectoid creature draw his blood into a glass tube. The Veloxy researcher had 8 eyes, and none of them blinked. "Standard procedure," the creature said in a clicking voice. "For our medical records." Danny nodded. He just wanted his ship fixed. The cargo hauler had limped into this research station with a busted engine, and the Veloxy had offered repairs in exchange for a simple medical exam. Seemed like a fair trade. What Danny did not see was the second injection. A tiny needle in the examination table itself, pushing a clear liquid into his thigh while he focused on the blood draw. Compound Theta 9, a neurotoxin that had killed 847 different species across the galaxy. Death usually came within 6 minutes. Senior researcher Quill watched from behind the observation glass. His compound eyes tracked every movement of the human subject. Beside him, Junior Analyst Sierra held a data tablet, ready to record the moment of death. 10 minutes passed. "The subject should be experiencing respiratory failure," Quill said. Danny hopped off the examination table and stretched his arms. "Are we done here? I could really use some water. Got a headache coming on." Sierra's tablet nearly slipped from her fingers. She looked at Quill with all 8 eyes wide. "Increase the dosage," Quill ordered through the communication system. Another hidden needle. Another dose of Theta 9. This time, double the amount. Danny rubbed his temples. The headache was getting worse. His skin felt warm, like a fever was building. He figured it was just exhaustion from a long journey. Space travel always messed with his system. 1 hour later, he was still alive, but he had removed his jacket because he felt hot. Sweat dripped down his forehead, but his heart was beating, his lungs were breathing, and his brain was fully functional. "This is impossible," Sierra whispered. Quill said nothing. In 300 years of research, he had never seen any organism survive Theta 9. The toxin destroyed nerve connections within minutes. There was no treatment, no resistance, no survival. Yet this human sat in the examination room, complaining about a headache and asking for water. "Run a full blood analysis," Quill ordered. "I want to see what is happening inside him." The analysis took 30 minutes. When the results appeared on the main display, every researcher in the observation room fell silent. Danny's blood was fighting back. His white blood cells had identified the toxin as a threat. That alone was remarkable. Most species had immune systems locked into fixed genetic patterns. They could only fight diseases their ancestors had encountered. But human blood was doing something different. It was learning, adapting, creating new antibodies in real time to neutralize a poison it had never seen before. "This cannot be correct," Quill said. "Run the analysis again." They ran it 3 more times. The results were identical. Danny's immune system was treating compound Theta 9 like a common cold. His body temperature had spiked to fight the invasion, just as evolution had taught humans to do millions of years ago on their distant planet. Chief Medical Officer Raxa arrived within the hour. She was the highest-ranking Veloxy on the station, with silver bands around her thorax marking her authority. She studied the blood analysis in silence. "Where did this human come from?" she finally asked. "A planet called Earth," Sierra answered. "Class 12 world in the outer spiral. Limited data in our archives." "Class 12. Raxa turned sharply. "A death world. The classification may be outdated. The humans have only been spacefaring for... It does not matter." Raxa cut her off. "What matters is what his blood is doing. This adaptive response could revolutionize galactic medicine. We could develop cures for diseases that have plagued 100 civilizations." She moved closer to the observation glass, watching Danny pace the examination room. He had figured out something was wrong. He kept touching the spot where the second needle had entered, frowning at a small red mark he did not remember receiving. "He is becoming suspicious," Quill noted. "Then keep him contained." Raxa's voice was cold. "Tell him there was a contamination alert. Quarantine protocols. Whatever keeps him cooperative. And if he refuses..." Raxa did not look away from the glass. "He is one human, alone, far from his homeworld. He has no choice." Danny pressed his hand against the examination room door. It was locked. He had tried it twice already. Through the small window, he could see the Veloxy researchers watching him. They were not acting like medical staff anymore. They were acting like scientists observing a lab animal. His fever broke that night. By morning, he felt almost normal, just tired and hungry. The Veloxy brought him food, but no explanations. When he asked about his ship, they changed the subject. When he asked to leave the examination room, they said it was not safe yet. Danny had worked as a paramedic for 8 years before switching to cargo hauling. He knew what it looked like when someone was hiding something about your medical condition. These aliens were not trying to help him. They were studying him, and whatever they had found in his blood, they had no intention of letting him go. That he sat down on the cold floor, leaned against the wall, and started planning. 3 needle marks on his left arm, 2 on his right, 1 on his thigh that he definitely did not remember. Danny counted them again in the dim light of his cell, because that is what this room had become. A cell. The examination table had been removed. A thin mattress now lay in the corner. The door remained locked at all times. His wrist communicator buzzed softly. The Veloxy had tried to confiscate it, but Danny had convinced them it was a medical device that monitored his heart. They did not know it contained Pete, his ship's navigation AI. I accessed their internal network. Pete's voice whispered through the tiny speaker. You need to hear this. Go ahead. They injected you with something called compound Theta 9. It has killed every species they tested it on. You were supposed to die in 6 minutes. Danny's jaw tightened. He had suspected something like this, but hearing it confirmed made his blood run cold. Then hot. Then cold again. They poisoned me on purpose. They are researchers. You're their research. Pete paused. There is more. They are fascinated by your blood. Your immune system created antibodies for their toxin in real time. They have never seen anything like it. What do they want now? Everything. They want to understand how your body adapts. They have scheduled more tests, more injections, more observations. Danny closed his eyes. He had walked into this station as a free man looking for engine repairs. Now he was a lab rat. The door slid open. Junior Analyst Sura entered, carrying a tray of food and a medical scanner. Her 8 eyes avoided looking directly at him. You poisoned me, Danny said flatly. Sura froze. Her mandibles clicked nervously. I saw the needle marks, Danny continued. I know what you did. I just want to hear you say it. For a long moment, Sura said nothing. Then, quietly, I did not make that decision, but you did not stop it either. She placed a tray on the floor and scanned him with a medical device. Her movements were mechanical, practiced, but her hands were trembling. Your body temperature is normal now, she reported. Blood pressure stable. No signs of toxin damage. Because my blood fought it off. Yes. Sira lowered the scanner. That should not be possible. The compound targets nerve connections directly. No species has ever developed natural immunity. Humans are different. We are beginning to understand that. She moved toward the door, then stopped. For what it is worth, I argued against the initial test. I was overruled. What happens next? Sira did not answer. She left quickly, and the door locked behind her. Over the next 3 days, the Veloxy ran more tests. They injected Danny with a paralytic agent designed to freeze voluntary muscle movement. He fought through it in 40 minutes, his body burning through the chemical faster than they could administer it. They tried a hallucinogenic compound next. Danny described the experience as similar to a bad flu medicine. Mild dizziness, some strange dreams. Nothing that stopped him from functioning. Each failure made Chief Medical Officer Raxa more determined. His species calls their planet Earth, Raxa announced during a research meeting. Danny could hear her through a vent in his cell. The Veloxy did not know how good human hearing could be when they really focused. We pulled the full data file from the Galactic Archive. Earth is classified as a Class 12 Death World. Extreme ultraviolet radiation. Crushing gravity compared to standard habitable worlds. Toxique atmosphérique composition. Predatory fauna on every major landmass. How did they survive such conditions? Quill asked. They adapted. Their bodies evolved to handle constant threats. Pain receptors that teach them to avoid danger. Immune systems that learn and improvise. Bone density triple our average. Healing factors that repair muscle damage during sleep cycles. Rax's voice grew colder. They are not fragile primitives. They are survivors of a world that tried to kill them every single day for millions of years. Danny smiled in the darkness of his cell. Good. Let them be afraid. What do you recommend? Quill asked. We need deeper access. Surface testing is not enough. I want to see how his organs function, how his tissues regenerate, how his nervous system processes pain. You were suggesting live dissection. His healing factor should allow us to study his organs while keeping him alive. We could harvest tissue samples repeatedly. Danny's smile vanished. The human is sentient, Quill said quietly. This would be torture. The human is a scientific breakthrough. His comfort is secondary to the knowledge we could gain. Rax's tone left no room for argument. Prepare the surgical theater. We begin in 48 hours. The vent fell silent. Danny sat in the darkness, his heart pounding. 48 hours. 2 days before they cut him open and started removing pieces, his wrist communicator buzzed. I found maintenance shaft access points, Pete reported. One leads to the docking bay where your ship is stored. Can I reach it? Possibly. But there are security checkpoints throughout the station. You would need help. Danny thought about Syrah, the way she avoided his eyes, the trembling in her hands. Maybe she was not ready to help him escape, but she was not comfortable with what was happening either point 2 days. He had 2 days to find allies in a station full of creatures who saw him as nothing more than an interesting specimen. That IT was not much time, but humans had survived worse odds before. Syrah found the data chip in her sleeping quarters. It was small, silver, and definitely not supposed to be there. She plugged it into her personal terminal. A single message appeared. They plan to dissect me alive. You know this is wrong. Help me. No signature. No instructions. Just those 3 sentences. She stared at the words for a long time. Then she began to make copies of the research files. 20 hours remained until the scheduled procedure. Danny had used Pete to deliver the chip through the station's mail drone system. A gamble. Syrah could have reported it immediately. Instead, she had done nothing. That silence was his answer. During his next meal delivery, Syrah left something hidden beneath his food tray. A folded piece of material that turned out to be a station layout. Every corridor, every checkpoint, every maintenance shaft. Thank you, Danny whispered. Syrah said nothing. She scanned him with her medical device, as usual, and left 16 hours now. Danny memorized the layout. His target was simple. Reach the docking bay, board his ship, and escape. The problem was the security checkpoints. Armed guards at 3 different intersections between his cell and freedom. But the maintenance shafts had fewer guards. They were designed for service drones, not prisoners. The Veloxi had not considered that a human might be desperate enough to crawl through them. Pete guided him through the timing. Guard rotations happened every 4 hours. The next rotation would begin in 12 hours. That was his window. One more thing, Pete said. You have a tracking implant. They inserted it during your examination. Left shoulder blade. Danny reached back and felt a small bump under his skin. Of course, they had tagged him that he searched his cell for anything sharp. The food trays were soft material. The mattress had no springs. The walls were smooth metal, but Danny had been a paramedic. He knew how to improvise. The edge of his wrist communicator band had a small metal clasp. With enough pressure and the right angle, it became a crude cutting tool. Danny bit down on his sleeve to muffle the sound. Then he cut into his own shoulder. Pain exploded through his body. His vision blurred. Blood ran down his back. But he kept cutting until his fingers found the tiny metal chip embedded in his muscle. He pulled it out and dropped it on the floor. His breathing was ragged. The wound would need to be bandaged. He tore strips from his mattress and wrapped them tight around his shoulder, applying pressure until the bleeding slowed. 8 hours until the guard rotation. Danny rested. His body needed time to start healing. That was one advantage of being human. Give him a few hours, and the wound would stabilize. Give him a day, and it would start closing on its own. The Veloxi had studied this about him. They just did not understand what it meant. When the time came, Danny moved. The maintenance shaft entrance was hidden behind a wall panel in his cell. Sierra's map had shown him exactly where to push. The panel slid aside just enough for him to squeeze through. The shaft was tight, dark, filled with cables and pipes that pressed against him from all sides. But Danny had grown up exploring caves in the mountains of Colorado. Tight spaces did not scare him, that he crawled for what felt like hours. His shoulders screamed with every movement. Sweat soaked through his clothes. But he kept going. Finally, he emerged into a service corridor near the engineering deck and found senior researcher Quill waiting for him. Danny froze. His muscles tensed, ready to fight. But Quill made no move to call security. He simply stood there, his 8 eyes studying the human with something that looked almost like curiosity. "You removed your tracking implant," Quill observed. "Impressive. Going to turn me in?" "I should." Quill's mandibles clicked slowly. "I have worked at this station for 40 years. I have followed every protocol, every procedure, every order from my superiors. And now I watch my colleagues plan to cut open a sentient being while he is still alive. For science." Quill's voice carried a weight Danny had not heard before. "I became a researcher to help people, to advance medicine, not to torture prisoners." Danny straightened slightly. "What do you want?" "To understand." Quill stepped closer. "I have never experienced pain. My species eliminated it through genetic modifications centuries ago. We considered it a weakness, a flaw to be removed. And now I wonder if we remove something important. Your species keeps pain. You live with it every day. And yet here you are, standing in front of me with a self-inflicted wound, ready to fight your way to freedom." Quill paused. "Pain did not make you weak. It made you determined." An alarm began blaring somewhere in the station. They had discovered his empty cell. "The docking bay is 3 levels down," Quill said quickly. "Take the east corridor. I will disable the security doors remotely." "Why are you helping me?" Quill was already moving toward a control panel. "Because I remember why I became a scientist. And this is not it." Danny ran. Red emergency lights painted the corridor in blood-colored shadows. Danny ran. Behind him, alarms screamed through the station speakers. Veloxy voices shouted commands in their clicking language. Security drones hummed to life in distant hallways. But Danny kept running 0.3 levels down. East corridor. Quill's instructions echoed in his mind as his feet pounded against the metal floor. His shoulder wound had reopened. Fresh blood soaked through his makeshift bandage. He ignored it. Pain was just information. His body telling him something was wrong. Right now, that information could wait. A security drone appeared around the corner. Spherical, hovering, with a stun beam mounted on its underside. It locked onto Danny and charged its weapon. Danny did not slow down. He grabbed a loose pipe from a maintenance alcove and swung hard. The drone shattered against the wall, sparking and smoking. 2 more drones followed. Danny destroyed them both. The Veloxy had designed these drones for docile specimens. Creatures that would freeze when confronted, that would submit to capture without resistance. They had not designed them for a human running on adrenaline and survival instinct. "Security teams converging on your location," Pete warned through his communicator. 6 officers approaching from the north. 4 from the south. 10 armed Veloxy. Danny had a pipe and a bleeding shoulder. Bad odds. But not impossible. He ducked into a side room. Storage, from the look of it. Shelves lined with equipment and supplies. He grabbed a heavy container and wedged it against the door. "Buying time will not help," Pete said. "They will cut through eventually." "I know." Danny scanned the room. "I need a different exit." His eyes landed on a ventilation grate near the ceiling. The vent shaft would be tight, but he could fit. Probably. He climbed a shelf and pulled himself up. His shoulder screamed. Blood dripped onto the floor below. But he forced his body through the opening and started crawling. The shaft was narrower than the maintenance tunnels. His shoulders scraped against the walls. Every movement sent pain shooting through his injury. But he kept going. Behind him, he heard the storage room door being forced open. Veloxy voices filled the space he had just escaped. Danny crawled faster. The shaft opened into a larger corridor. He dropped down, stumbled, caught his balance. According to the map in his memory, the docking bay was just ahead. Sierra was waiting at the intersection. Danny stopped, breathing hard. For a moment, he thought she might be there to stop him, to finally prove her loyalty to the station. Instead, she held out a small data chip. "Every experiment they performed on you," she said quietly. "Every test, every result, every recommendation, including the plan for live dissection." Danny took the chip. "Why?" "Because the galaxy should know what we do here. What we have done to hundreds of species over the centuries." Sierra's 8 eyes were steady. "I told myself it was for science, that the knowledge was worth the cost. I do not believe that anymore." Heavy footsteps echoed from somewhere nearby. The security teams were getting closer. "Go," Sierra said. "I will delay them. They will know you helped me." "Yes." She turned away. "I will face that consequence." Danny ran. The docking bay doors loomed ahead. Cole had kept his promise. They were unlocked, sliding open as Danny approached. And there was his ship, beaten up, patched together, but functional. Home. Between Danny and his ship stood Chief Medical Officer Raxa. She was flanked by 20 security officers. Each one carried a weapon designed to incapacitate, not kill. They still wanted him alive. Still wanted to cut him open and study his organs. "You have caused significant disruption," Raxa said coldly. "But this ends now. Surrender peacefully, and I will ensure the procedure is painless." Danny laughed. It was not a happy sound. "Painless," he repeated. "You want to dissect me while I am still alive, and you're offering painless? Your biology is extraordinary. The knowledge we could gain is not worth my life." Danny stepped forward. The security officers raised their weapons. He kept walking. "You study my blood. You saw what my body can do. But you missed the most important part." Raxa's mandibles clicked nervously. "And what is that?" "We do not just survive." Danny's voice was steady now. "Cold. Dangerous. We fight back." He charged. The first stun blast hit him in the chest. His muscles spasmed. His heart skipped. But he kept moving. The second blast caught his leg. He stumbled but did not fall. The third, fourth, fifth. Each one should have dropped him. Each one would have dropped any other species in the galaxy. Danny reached the first security officer and grabbed his weapon arm. Twisted. The arm snapped with a wet crack. The officer collapsed, screaming. The Veloxi had eliminated pain from their species. They had never learned to handle it. Danny took the fallen weapon and fired into the crowd. Officers went down, twitching. The others began backing away. Fear. Real fear. In the eyes of creatures who had never faced a predator. "Open a path," Danny said quietly, "or I start breaking more arms." They opened a path. Danny walked to his ship, climbed the ramp, and sealed the airlock behind him. His hand was shaking now. The adrenaline was fading. His body was beginning to realize how much damage it had taken. Launch sequence initiated, Pete announced. The docking bay doors opened to the darkness of space. Danny's ship lifted off the deck and accelerated toward the stars. He was free, but this was not over. The distress signal came through at 0300 hours ship time. Danny was still bandaging his wounds when Pete flagged the transmission. 3 days had passed since his escape from Helion 7. He had been heading toward Earth, pushing his damaged engine as hard as it could go. "Human origin signal," Pete reported. "Emergency frequency. Location is Veloxi Research Station Helion 12. Danny stopped, wrapping his shoulder. Another research station, larger than Helion 7, specializes in neurological research. Pete paused. "The signal is weak. Whoever sent it may not have much time." Another station, more Veloxi researchers. More specimens being studied and dissected in the name of science. Danny could ignore it. He could keep flying toward Earth, report what happened to him, and let someone else handle it. His body was still healing. His ship was barely functional. He had no weapons except a stolen stun gun. Going to Helion 12 would be suicide. "How many humans?" Danny asked. "Signal indicates 3. Names in the transmission: Rita Walsh, Ben Walsh, Greta Hallman. 3 people. A family, maybe captured by the same creatures who had tried to cut Danny open, that he changed course. Helion 12 was larger than Helion 7. Multiple docking rings, extensive research facilities, heavy security. Danny could see patrol ships circling the station like sharks around a wounded animal. Direct approach is impossible, Pete calculated. They will identify your ship and open fire. Then I need them to invite me in. Danny transmitted a standard cargo hauler identification. Fake registry, fake manifest, fake everything. Pete had built the cover identity during the flight over. Cargo vessel requesting docking permission, Danny announced through the communication system. Carrying medical supplies for purchase. A long silence. Then, cargo vessel. You are cleared for docking bay 7. Prepare for inspection upon arrival. The Veloxi did not recognize him. They saw a simple trader looking to make sail. Danny intended to give them something different. He docked without incident. Veloxi inspectors checked his cargo hold, found the medical supplies he had picked up at a trading post 2 days earlier, and marked him as legitimate. Danny walked into the station carrying Sierra's data chip. He found a public terminal near the docking bay. Using Pete's hacking skills, he accessed the station's internal communication network. Then he uploaded everything. Every experiment performed on him. Every test result. Every recommendation for live dissection. The data spread through the station's system like a virus, appearing on every screen, every terminal, every personal device, along with one addition: Danny's image, his voice, his message. My name is Danny Reeves. I am a human from Earth. 3 weeks ago, Veloxi researchers at Helion 7 poisoned me with a compound that should have killed me in 6 minutes. I survived. They decided to dissect me while I was still alive. I escaped. You let that sink in. You have 3 more humans in this station. I am here to take them home. You can let them go peacefully, or you could try to stop me. Pause. I survived your toxins. I survived your paralytic agents. I survived your hallucinogens. I fought through 20 security officers and escaped on my own ship. And there are 8 billion more like me on Earth. He stared directly into the terminal's camera. Your choice. The station descended into chaos. Junior researchers abandoned their posts and headed for escape pods. Security officers argued with each other about proper protocol. Senior staff demanded answers from commanders who had none. Danny walked through the confusion like a ghost. He moved with purpose, following the station map he had memorized during the flight over. Neurological Research Wing. Level 4. Cell block C.2 guards stood at the entrance. They saw him coming and raised their weapons. Danny kept walking. You are the human from the broadcast, one guard said. His voice trembled. Yes. We have orders to. I know what your orders are. Danny stopped 3 meters away. I also know your weapons will not stop me. You saw the data. You know what I survived. The guards looked at each other. 8 eyes filled with uncertainty. Your commanders experimented on children, Danny said quietly. One of the humans inside is 19 years old. They have been taking samples from his brain for 6 months. The guards did not move. You can try to stop me and fail, or you can walk away and pretend you never saw me. Danny's voice hardened. But one way or another, I am walking through that door. The guards stepped aside. Danny found the 3 humans in stasis pods. Rita Walsh, 52 years old. Hasson Ben, Ninitian. Pilot Greta Hallman, 41. They looked thin, pale, but alive as he began the wake-up sequence. Rita opened her eyes first. Confusion, fear, then recognition of a human face. Who, she started. My name is Danny. I'm getting you out of here. They took us 6 months ago. Our ship was damaged near, I know. We can talk later. Can you walk? Rita tested her legs. Weak but functional. I can run if I have to. Ben woke next, disoriented and shaky. Greta took longer, her body fighting against the stasis drugs. By the time all 3 were standing, Danny had mapped their exit route. Stay close to me, he ordered. Do not stop for anything. They are and 01 tried to stop them. Earth looked blue and green and beautiful through the cockpit window. Danny had not seen his homeworld in 8 months. Now, watching it grow larger as his ship approached, he felt something loosen in his chest. Something he had been holding tight since the first needle entered his arm. Rita sat in the co-pilot's seat beside him. Her son Ben was asleep in the cargo hold, finally resting after days of paranoid wakefulness. Greta had taken the other bunk, her body still recovering from extended stasis. I never thought I would see it again, Rita said softly. Earth, home. She turned to look at Danny. They told us we would never leave that station, that our bodies were too valuable for research. They said humans were rare specimens in this part of the galaxy. They were wrong about a lot of things. What will happen to them? The Veloxi? Danny considered the question. He had transmitted all the research data to Earth's united government during the journey back. Every experiment, every test result, every violation of galactic sentient rights law. The evidence was overwhelming. Diplomatic incident at minimum, he said. Maybe trade sanctions. Maybe worse. Will it be enough? It is a start. Earth's orbital control hailed them as they approached. Danny transmitted his identification and received clearance to dock at the main station. Medical teams were already waiting, alerted to the condition of his passengers. The docking was smooth. The airlock opened to reveal a crowd of officials, medical staff, and government representatives. Cameras flashed. Questions were shouted from every direction. Danny ignored them all. He helped Rita down the ramp, then went back for Ben and Greta. Medical teams took over, loading the 3 survivors onto transport beds that a woman in a gray uniform approached Danny. Her badge identified her as Director Chun of the United Government's Alien Relations Division. Mr. Reeves, she said formally, I have read your report. I have questions. I imagine you do. The Veloxi Collective is claiming you attacked their researchers without provocation. They say you stole classified medical data and destroyed government property. Danny laughed. It was a harsh sound, nothing like humor. They poisoned me with a compound that should have killed me in 6 minutes. When I survived, they planned to dissect me while I was still awake. They held 3 human citizens in stasis for 6 months and experimented on their brains. He met Director Chen's eyes. Those are facts. Everything else is politics. Chun studied him for a long moment. Then she nodded. The evidence supports your account. Several Veloxi researchers have already defected and confirmed the details. One named Quill has requested asylum in exchange for testimony. Quill. Danny felt a small sense of relief. The researcher who had helped him escape had survived. What happens now, he asked. Now we deal with the consequences. The Galactic Council will investigate. The Veloxi will face sanctions. Their research program will be shut down. Chun paused. You have started something, Mr. Reeves. Humans have been considered minor players in galactic affairs. After this, that perception will change. Good or bad, that depends on what we do next. She extended her hand. Thank you for bringing our people home. Danny shook her hand. Then he walked away, ignoring the cameras and questions that followed him, that he found a quiet observation deck overlooking Earth. The planet rotated slowly below, continents and oceans catching the light of the sun. Billions of humans living their lives, unaware of what existed beyond their atmosphere. Rita found him there an hour later. Ben is stable, she said. The doctors say he will recover fully. Greta too. Good. She stood beside him, looking down at Earth. I wanted to thank you. Properly. You already did. Words are not enough for what you gave us. She turned to face him. You could have escaped cleanly. You could have gone straight to Earth and reported what happened. Instead, you came to Helion 12. You risked your life for 3 people you had never met. Danny was quiet for a moment. He thought about the fear he had felt in that examination room. The helplessness of being someone else's specimen. The cold certainty that he was going to die alone, far from home. Out there, he finally said, we only have each other. Humans, I mean. We're new to space. We do not have colonies on 100 worlds. We do not have fleets or armies or galactic alliances. All we have is each other. He looked at Rita. Nobody gets left behind. That is the only rule that matters. Rita did not respond with words. She simply stood beside him as they watched Earth turn below them. Later, Danny would give official testimony to the Galactic Council. He would become a minor celebrity in human media, the cargo hauler who survived Veloxi poison and saved 3 colonists from alien experimentation. But that was later. Right now, he just wanted to look at his planet and remember what he had been fighting for. The sun rose over the Pacific Ocean. Light spread across the continents. 8 billion humans woke up and started their days, unaware that somewhere in a galaxy, an entire alien civilization was learning to fear them. Not because humans had weapons or armies or advanced technology, but because humans had pain, struggle, adaptation. Evolution had forged them on a death world, and they had survived by learning to fight back. The Veloxi had studied human blood and found biology they could not explain. They had missed the most important discovery. Humans were never the prey. They were the survivors, and they would protect their own.